was incentivized to build technology over and over which optimized for efficiency, not for humans. So I built optimization routines which eliminated 2000 jobs. And my father used to deliver telegrams and he used to make $175. I did not see my father when I wrote that algorithm because there was some father who lost their job and their son were impacted. When I came back to India because my mother was hospitalized, I just had a lot of time to reflect. And I just understood that I was chasing vision and not validation. If you're a bad human, don't buy my technology. And how many people here will raise their hand and say, I'm a bad human? So I am bound to be successful. I feel courage and fear are not two sides of the coin. Courage is able to know that there is a problem and you're still willing to put your life on it. Deep values and virtue that makes me who I am is what I would like my son to know.
Our next guest wakes up at 4 a.m. every morning, not to check email, not to code, to paint. Classical Indian painting, Tanjore style. Gold leaf applied in 22 intricate layers. It takes hours. It's meticulous, it's ancient, and it seems completely insane for someone building cutting-edge AI. But Shekhar Natarajan says that's exactly the point. This is a man who holds 207 patents, who built billion-dollar businesses at Walmart, Coca-Cola, Disney, who went to America with just $34 in his pocket and climbed to the top of Fortune 500 companies. MIT, Harvard Business School, IESC. He's been trained by the best. And then he walked away from all of it, not because he failed, because he succeeded and still felt empty. Now he's building Angelic Intelligence, AI with conscious, AI that even his mother would understand. Beta, will this help people or hurt them? He's not just a technologist, he's a philosopher who codes, a son who remembers his mother's sacrifice, a father building a world his son can inherit, a painter who sees technology as art, where the invisible layers determine everything. Tonight, we talk about what technology owes humanity, what success costs, what fear teaches, and what it means to build with conscience in a world optimizing for speed. Welcome Shekhar Natarajan, founder of Orchestro.AI, the visionary who paints in gold before he builds in code. Hello Shekhar, thank you so much for joining us today. It's an honor that you're here.
Thank you so much.
We'll just start by your interest in painting. You wake up at 4 a.m. every morning to paint. You're applying gold leaf to canvas while your competitors are coding, raising capital, scaling. That's either genius or self-sabotage. What do you think it is? What would happen if you stopped all of this?
So it's a great question. And I think some days it's self-sabotage. Okay, and some days I think this is what is needed. There are many days when I feel it's needed, and let me tell you why. So if you take the example of what Nano Banana, the software that came out recently from Google, they were able to create amazing technology and were able to create images which are even more perfect than the real images. And you may think that's a good thing, but the fraud that was created in the system was massive. So people were taking picture of one egg, one broken egg, and they were telling that there were 10 broken eggs and they were filing for fraud. And people were like, going to insurance company and filing for fraud. And Google has this technology that it is built called Synth ID, which actually tells you whether it's fake or real. Google knows it's fake or real, but rest of the world doesn't. So if Google is basically considered the best technology company out there, how can they be so reckless? And why should we be so reckless? And why are we in such a hurry building technology? Because technology is in support of humanity. It is not to be like the reverse replacement strategy. So I feel what I am doing by painting every day at 4 a.m. while my competitors are going and raising money and or building technology in a hurry, they are actually creating a hype cycle that is going to bust anyway. And I feel that being patient, building it right, and if it is destined, it is always going to come to you. That is what I believe in. So obviously, like, I do tangier painting. And if you've known what tangier painting is all about, you take a canvas, you get the outline. Once you get the outline, then you do the muck work. And the muck work gives that embellished look, right? And then you apply stones. Once you apply the stones, then you put the gold leaf on it. Then you clean out, and so that the stones are visible. And then you begin to paint. All of this process takes a lot of patience. And during that time, I'm not optimizing for anything. I'm just being a human. I'm being myself. And so that time of calm helps me think better, get into the process of, like, not only defining the divine, but also how do I take the divinity and apply it to the technology that I want to build. And that is what angelic intelligence is all about. It is about mimicking what good humans do. And so if I am trying to build technology that mimics what good humans do, I have to be in the right state of mind. I cannot be rushing things because I'll be creating reckless things. So it is a purposeful, like, strategy for me. Now, where I think it is self-sabotage. Well, when I wake up at 3 a.m. and I find that I don't have enough money to run the payroll, or I may not have enough money to run the payroll, that scares the shit out of me. And that is the time I think maybe I should make that one small pivot. Maybe I should, like, bend the thing a certain way. That way I can be more successful. Maybe I should take an exit. So those thoughts are far and few in between now, knowing what I'm building, and what I'm building is mission driven and purpose driven. So that keeps me centered. So to answer your question, sometimes, very few times, self-sabotage. More times, I think that is what is needed.
I think that's a very interesting perspective, and I feel, and I'm glad that you chose that. Okay, most of the times I'm genius, but I'm also a human. That's why I think it's a self-sabotage situation. Moving ahead, I would like to talk about your son Vishnu will Google you one day. He'll find patents, awards, profiles, but there's a version of you that won't show up in any search result. Who's the Shekhar Natarajan that algorithms can't capture? And do you want your son to find him?
Well, like, what do we like to publicize the most as humans? Our accomplishments. Okay. We never talk about our vulnerabilities because that makes us think that we are, kind of showing to the rest of the world that we are weak. Right. And that makes us somehow, like, we have this ego about ourselves that, like, people should not know how vulnerable we are to others. But I think that makes us human, by the way. And so when my son goes and Googles, of course he's going to find where I worked. Of course he's going to find out, like, everything that I've done. Of course he's going to find, like, what is written about me in the media, right? Of course he's going to find the patents. Of course he's going to find the awards. But what he's not going to find is his father was shit scared building this business. And there were times when he thought what he was building, there may not be a customer on the other side. Father, like, goes through this anxiety attacks, knowing that there are 70 families that rely on him. And one bad thing that I do on one day when I'm not thinking straight can destroy those 70 families someday later. Right? I, like, have this paranoia and look at him sometimes and say, my whole life's purpose was a promise that I made to him that I'm going to leave him and the world in a better place. And I'm afraid if this fails, that I'm going to be leaving him in a worse off situation than in a better place. Right? So I want him to know all of these things about me. What makes me happy, what makes me sad, what makes me human, like compassion, like, humility, the values of, like, my family, how we were actually born and raised, the struggles that we had, all of those things. Because I feel courage and fear are not two sides of the coin. Courage is able to know that there is a problem and you're still willing to put your life on it. It's overcoming the fear. And that sort of, like, deep values and virtue that makes me who I am is what I would like my son to know. So that I don't think any system can capture. And what we are attempting to do is to capture those beautiful moments, the anomalous moments of what makes a human, and being able to spread that. So humans can be humans around machines, and machines can mimic the human goodness and not substitute the humans.
That's such a beautiful answer, and I appreciate the human approach that you have in all your work. 207 patents. But here's my question: do you regret anything? Because every innovator has that one invention they wish they hadn't created because it got used wrong. That haunts them. Anything you wished you didn't build?
So I went to United States in 2001 to pursue my master's. That is a facade. I actually went to help my brother who has bipolar depression, and he was already there and he was going through a lot of problems. And I lost my father in 2005. And when I lost my father, so I went to United States with $34 in my pocket, 2001. I came back to India again in 2005, and I was here for 2 months for a whole host of reasons. And then when I went back to $50 in my pocket. Okay, because I just started working for Coke. I exhausted all my resources. And at that time, I wanted to create an escape velocity for my family, because I come from slums in India, where access to education, healthcare, all of those is a problem. And still, the people that I grew up are still living there, and they still face the same problems. So I was consumed, and I wanted to prove myself. And trying to prove myself, I built a lot of things that I'm not so happy about. I focused on efficiency, because efficiency is the currency for corporates. Efficiency means you make more money as a company. If you make more money as a company, you're incentivized as an individual contributor in the company. Then you begin to become a manager. Then you become an executive. Then as the perks grow, the golden shackles come over. And so I was incentivized to build technology over and over which optimized for efficiency, not for humans. So I built optimization routines which eliminated 2,000 jobs. I work for Walmart. I work for PepsiCo. And for my job was to find 1 minute here, 2 minutes there, because 1 minute time 1 billion units times however number of stores and however number of units moving means a lot of people losing their jobs. And so when I was calculating and building those algorithms, whether it is like how you route, how you think about dispatching different trucks on the road, or what goes with what kind of product portfolios, like chilled cannot go with frozen product, frozen cannot go with dry products, how do you commingle them? All of those things meant that Walmart as a company, or like PepsiCo as a company, or American Eagle as a company was more efficient. In all of that, I was losing the fact that there were 2,000 people who lost their jobs, and my father used to deliver telegrams, and he used to make $175. I did not see my father when I wrote that algorithm, because there was some father who lost their job and their son were impacted. And in 2017, when I came back to India because my mother was hospitalized, I just had a lot of time to reflect. And I just understood that I was chasing vision and not validation.
Sure. In your own words, Angelic Intelligence is about building systems that care. But here's a difficult question. Do you care about everyone? Because most people don't. We have our own limitations, we have our own circles. When did you realize that you can't actually love the whole world? How do you quote something you can't feel?
See, we are all humans now. So if there is a fire and if my son is caught, of course I'm going to run into the fire and protect my son. Will I do the same thing when I see the fire and someone else is burning? I don't know. I don't know. Will I risk my life for someone else? I don't know. Right? But like the human in me says, I will probably. So we are always going to be biased to our family, I'm going to love my son more than the next door son. I'm going to love my family more than my next door family. That's human, right? But, and compassion is a universal phenomena. I cannot replicate what all humans do because I don't know what all humans are feeling. But I do know how should I feel if I were in their shoes. It's putting myself in their shoes. It's empathy. It's emotional intelligence. So what I'm trying to build is not what I could feel, is what I should be feeling in the first place. There's a difference to those two things. Could and should. And so that is what makes this interesting. And I like, this is also a great question that you asked, because I am also looking at like the people who are building these algorithms that is going to help humanity. And I'm looking at their experiences. Do you think a guy living in Silicon Valley has been ever denied a loan? Or they've never been accessed, they were denied the access to get into a library because you come from slums? Or like someone couldn't actually afford food? Or the fact that like someone actually, my grandmother decided not to take medication and not to go to hospital because she thought me getting trained for IIT was more important than her life itself. So the people who are coding these algorithms don't have a complete picture of what makes human a human. And those people are coding the software that is going to help humanity. Such a hypocrisy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Such a hypocrisy. So even I, having come from all the background I have come from, even I don't have the complete picture. So what I'm trying to do is at least say, hey, I know like what poverty means. I know what living like unprivileged means. I know what invisible means. But even I don't have complete picture. So I will do a should we. What should I feel? And that is not happening in the way current algorithms are built. And algorithms that are not built that way are going to make non-human decisions, inhuman decisions. And that is the biggest catastrophic risk we have with artificial intelligence. Systems deciding inhuman things, to unplug a person, gender bias from someone getting hired, someone getting denied a loan, someone is getting denied like credit cards, someone is getting denied like the access to healthcare. If we let efficiency take priority, we're going to run into that situation.
Definitely. And I think that doomsday is not far, but of course, if we follow ethical AI like you do, I think we could turn the pages.
We are not building ethical AI. See, there's difference between AI, ethical AI, and angelic intelligence.
Okay.
AI is efficiency. Ethical AI is do no harm. Angelic intelligence is doing good. Do no harm is not equal to do good.
Okay.
Do good means do good.
Yes.
Doing no harm means like let me put like wrapper around it. Right? I will prevent the harm from happening. That doesn't mean I'm doing good.
Sure.
Right? So that is the difference between the three of them. So I choosing to do good and amplify the good, which is what humans deserve, uplifting.
Definitely. I think that is a very interesting answer. Moving on, I think you just spoke about your humble beginnings. You just mentioned that people who were born and brought up with you, they are still there. Every Indian who made it in America faces this guilt. Your family is still struggling while you are not. When you visit India, what's the conversation you dread most? Who asks you the questions you can't answer?
It's called success guilt. Okay? And sometimes you want to run so far from where you lived that you don't want to live the life you lived. Okay? Because your mind wants to run away from it because you saw all the scars that actually happened to you. And so like, there are many times when my cousin comes and says, hey, like my son, can you get him a job? And I think twice about it. I say like, if I open my network and if I bring that guy in, Will I lose my sense of identity? And what if that guy screws up? So you want to shield yourself, because you as a person are more important. You have created the escape velocity for yourself, and somehow you feel others may not deserve that chance. So that happens quite often, because we're all humans. And I was running away from that scenario for so long. What a hypocrite I am. Right? So but when I had my son, there was a profound realization, because my son looked exactly like my father. Same face, same soul, same smile, everything is similar, like Xerox copy of my father. Okay, when I held him, the only thing that came to my mind was, my father left a beautiful life for me. Not because he was a rich guy. He made only 175 rupees a month delivering telegrams. So logistics is built into my blood. He knew every pin code. Okay. But even with that money and resource that he had, and the fact that we had, I had a bipolar brother, he made sure that he never kept anything for himself. He actually donated money to others. For people who lost their lives, he would go and file he would go hire a lawyer so that they could get provident fund, they could get pension, his colleagues. So he was such a nice man in the neighborhood. And so that karma that he put, and the beautiful thought he put, came as a boomerang for me. So there I understood and kind of realized how important it is, not just to be a good father or whatever it is, but be a good citizen of the world. And so if you had asked me that same question, was I running away from the context I lived? Absolutely yes. And if I said no, I'll be lying to you. But now, call me a changed man, call me someone who's realized more than in life than others, but I feel there is a stronger belief system in my mind today that I would love to help everyone who's in need. Because no mother has to, my mother actually pawned her touring so I could get education. And it scares me, her exchange rate after she died, I spent 45,000 rupees. She spent 30 rupees pawning that wedding ring, right? So the exchange rate over 25 years of whatever she invested in me was only 45,000 rupees of debt for funeral she left for me. Okay, if that is life, then why am I trying to escape out of the context I was living? That is so stupid of me. So everything kind of changed for me when my son was born, when I started losing my loved ones, and now the reality of life is very different for me. I see myself in every kid who did not have access, and I would love to build a company that enables all of these people.
That's lovely to know. Supposedly, if Angelic Intelligence does not get accepted and Profit First AI wins in this rat race, what's your plan B? Not philosophically, just tactically. What would you do?
Well, I think that's a very interesting question. Of course, we live in a capitalistic world, So I visited so many people, so many family offices. They all say our values are great, our virtues are good. We want to do human good. The next question they ask is, what is my return on invested capital? Huh? So that is human brain, they want return. So we live in that world. So I know I cannot run away from that world. You have to change the world you live in. Not by fighting it from outside, by living within and fighting from inside. So, and that has been my organizational, sort of trajectory in every company I worked. Every place I went, I was a transformation guy. Okay, so I know how to fight the system from within to make a change. And now coming to the question of if AI first company becomes successful and I would not be successful. Well, if I'm not successful because I have not extracted rent for selfish behavior and my company dies, I will live with that fact. But I will not sacrifice my value. Because the best way I could deal with scenarios like this, but the ones you're talking about, is people can own my company, but they cannot own my values. So I have created a mechanism and a structure to take all of the equity that I have, and I have put it in a foundation. That way it helps the human good. So capital can come, returns can be generated, and yet I can be still a company which is focused on profits. So I have created a structure in place, because we are always thinking about the structure we live in. But if there is no structure to what we are doing, then sky is the limit of how you think. So we've created like a system where, like, we would be successful despite the capitalistic world that we live in. Okay, now coming to whether people will buy virtue or not, we are creating a temperature. So we say, you want to be amoral, be my guest. You want to be moral, be my guest. So set the temperature the way you want, right? So, but we want people to know the choices they are making, and we give them an explainability layer. So I strongly feel, if humans were to interact with machines, machines should emulate the behavior of humans. And there is not a system that does it today, because all the data that is being fed is the Reddit rant, or is basically what is coming from out there in the web. And that is all garbage. And if you think the garbage is what makes human the human, sorry my friend, we have a problem. So we have to figure out, like, what makes us human, the anomalous moments, and that is what we are training that models on. We are actually, like, taking my life's experiences of other people similar to mine, and incorporating that into the model. We are actually sourcing stories from people, right? We're building capabilities that is not going to just use one type of model, every type of model available. We are not just using one type of hardware and be wedded to NVIDIA. We are going to be like using every type of hardware, because everything deserves a different context and a different hardware. So we are reimagining the entire world of how intelligence is going to be deployed along with the human index. And my slogan is, my technology mimics what good humans do. If you're a bad human, don't buy my technology. And how many people here will raise their hand and say, I'm a bad human? So I am bound to be successful.
All the best to you for that, and very insightful answer. Now let's get back to your work experience in the Fortune 500 companies. You have seen the optimize for speed. Here's what I want to know. What's the most human thing you saw happen inside these supposedly inhuman corporations? Give me the moment that surprised you.
See, there is a like, people want to believe that bad companies or big companies are bad companies. But company is just a structure. There are people in the company, right? And sometimes the ruthless, the guys who come from Wall Street, the guys who are basically money driven, make a lot of choices which are highly human. And those are the times you realize that all of the things that you hear in the media is so wrong. And I've had experiences like that, like tons of experiences, like drivers running into a house, seeing the house is on fire, rescuing people. The guy, like, standing in Vietnam underneath like a 12-storied building, holding like a falling baby, right? Who does that? Who runs into a building which is on fire to protect someone else? Who, like, Walmart literally parked like a boatload of trucks when Katrina hit, so they could rescue the local communities. The executive I'm talking about made a decision knowing that it's a small business, and if he took that decision, the small business would go out of business. And the guy was actually like sending the kid to the school, and he took a very, and this was a minority business, by the way, of a different color. And this guy said, you know what, I'm going to pause the decision, and Walmart lost literally millions. But he took the right human decision. So that's what makes companies great. The humans in the companies are the guys who are holding on to the cultural values and propagating that. In the world of machines, I worry that is going to be gone. So how do you capture that beautiful human element of a company, the brand halo? Like, you must have like shopped with like so many e-commerce companies. You may be frustrated that the package never showed up. You pick up the phone and you want to blast the guy on the other side. And then you hear that soft, sweet voice on the other side saying, so sorry, you had a problem. क्या होता है? Your heart melts. Right? So that's not an unnatural behavior. That is a human behavior. And we have to bottle all of that beautiful behavior that exists, that machines cannot replicate, to bring back the brand halo that is going to be lost when systems take over.
Sure. Thanks for letting us know. I think we never kind of realized that, this kind of human approach that these brands were taking. And, these are just instances that you realize, there are people behind working these big corporations, and that they treat humans like humans.
Like, I'll give you one more example, man. Like, one of my friend, his name is Kevin Brown. Okay. And like the UPS guy was so familiar with like the Browns family. And like Kevin is like a serial entrepreneur, like, he was a third employee in IncMe, like very, very renowned guy. And he became good friends with Jenny and like, Kevin, this guy, like the UPS driver. And one day the dog ran out of the house. Okay. And it went like 3 streets across. The driver knew that it was Kevin's dog. He got the dog, made the dog sit in the car, in the van, brought it back, and then dropped off. And Kevin keeps telling me that story even today. Like, if it was a random dog, I don't care. I'm a random driver, I don't care. Like, why will they behave the way they behaved? Because humans are generally kind. And kindness is what we need in this world. And so there are millions and billions of examples of this extraordinary behavior that we don't capture. And that is what we need to capture and replicate in our systems.
Definitely. I think this was such a lovely anecdote. Now let's just get back to your love for painting. Classical Indian painting taught you patience. But let's talk about your humble beginnings. That kind of taught you resourcefulness. American capitalism, where you spend most of your time, taught you scale. But let's just talk about what success taught you that failure will never be able to.
It's a fantastic question. There are many reasons why you fail. You could blame it on poverty. You could blame on a lot of things. But success gives you choice, right? So if success basically reveals you as a person because of the choices you make. Failure makes you up as a person, creates the character. Failure में क्या होता है? You basically end up like becoming more perseverant. You show grit. You basically like are able to understand like the circumstances which made you fail. But success में क्या होता है कि like everyone now basically is giving you more credibility. That credibility means you have more pathways, and the more pathways means like you can take more decisions and more like ways to go. And because you have so many choices, it reveals your character. If you make the wrong choice, then your values are coming out. So success is a very dangerous thing if you don't harness it properly. Success में क्या होता है कि like you begin to worry about yourself, and you may end up making wrong choices. And that is the biggest risk of success. Not being able to know what is value wise right. Drift हो जाते हैं हम लोग, right? So that is the biggest thing that success taught me कि आपके पास infinite opportunities है, आप किसको blame करोगे? आप खुद को blame करना चाहिए ना? So but like those pathways, like if I'm taking a shortcut, that exposes that like I'm such a hypocrite, right? If I'm taking like if I'm doing something like if I'm trying to find like a path where like it is not human, then it shows that like I'm being a inhuman person. So I think that is the fundamental difference between success and failure. Am I making sense to you?
Yes, definitely. And I think it was a very insightful perspective again. And here's the final question, a bit emotional one though. Your mother never got to see Angelic Intelligence. If she was supposed to walk into your office today and ask you, Beta, what are you building? Tell me, what would you tell her? I want the real you, not a PR answer.
I'm trying to replicate the goodness and the virtues she and my dad and everyone in my life have displayed in making me who I am as a person. That is the simplest answer for her. Because and my mother, as you probably may have heard, like, I obviously, like, we went to Jesuit school, and so both my brothers went to the same school, and I was the third in the family. And for a whole host of reasons that I'll not get into, they said, like, I cannot get enrolled. And she stood in front of the headmaster's office for 1 year. She did not protest. She did not, like, make a big fuss out of it. She would just stand. And she wore down the system. She outlasted it till the fact that I got enrolled. So I started my school 1 year later. But I got the same level of access because she thought it was unjust that the system declined me because I was the third son. Okay, that grit, that persistence. But she was very compassionate also. She, when we couldn't afford, she just took off the very symbol of her marriage, the toe ring, and she sold it. She did not pawn it, she sold it. So I could have education. So her love, her identity, she was able to lose her own identity. Like, she was okay, like, that is like the symbol of being married. Someone actually like loves her, and that is kind of the indication of the relationship. And she was willing to give that up for my education and to see beyond what I'm capable of. I didn't even know like I was capable of something, but she saw something in me. She saw the non-obvious, right? My father is very similar. And I can go on, like, on and on and on about all the people who came in my life. Like, everyone thinks, like, my life is, like, so beautiful because I must have worked very hard or I must be very smart. None of that is true, by the way. I'm not smart. I'm neither basically, like, lucky, okay, or hardworking guy. There were angels who showed up in my life, and every time I wanted to veer off from my destiny, they came and reminded me, but my destiny is this, and they opened the door because they saw something that I couldn't see in myself, right? And so I would love to take the same set of values and the same set of principles that made my mom, my dad, and everyone who came in my life, and replicate that and amplify all of the humans around us. That, I think, is my gift to my mom.
I think your mother is that one warrior that everyone deserves, and I hope you replicate these values, her determination, her grit into what you're building. All the best to you for that, and it was a lovely conversation. Learned a lot from you, and I think our audiences would also have major takeaways from this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.